Well, let's head now to talk about Calais, because some cross-channel ferry and train services have resumed after yesterday's day of disruption. That was caused by a strike by French ferry workers. Now, the strikers started a fire at the entrance to the tunnel, and that forced Eurotunnel to suspend its services. Many migrants hoping to get to Britain took advantage of the delays yesterday by trying to climb onto lorries that were backed up along the motorway leading to the terminal. Well, let's speak now to Nabila Ramdani, who's a French journalist and a commentator. Good morning, or bonjour.
Good morning. Bonjour, Charlotte.
Chaotic scenes yesterday, essentially the perfect storm if you were a migrant and hoping to capitalise on the situation.
Yes, absolutely. You're quite right to use the word perfect storm, because what we were seeing yesterday is exactly that. It's almost a perfect storm as regards problems in Calais. On one side, you have extremely militant unionists who can and did bring the Channel Tunnel and the port of Calais to a standstill in a few hours. And on the other side, they were accompanied by hundreds of illegal migrants using the travel chaos to try to get on board gridlocked lorries, cars, and indeed vans. And to put that very simply, huge traffic jams were building up, and this stretched police resources, meaning the thousands of migrants sleeping rough in Calais had pretty much a whole day to try and get on board vehicles just before all the traffic and ferries started up again.
Border controls are being tightened here in the UK as a result of those scenes yesterday. What's happening in terms of what the authorities in France are doing to step up efforts in Calais?
Well, effectively, the mayor of Calais and lots of French officials are accusing the British authorities of contributing to the problem by having such a lax system, and indeed giving the migrants easy benefits, as well as crucially allowing them to slip into the black economy where they enjoy cash-in-hand jobs. So there's a little war going on between the French and indeed British authorities. But it has to be said that it looks as it's a wider problem. It is a European problem, and the European perspective, from the European Union perspective, this is a particular problem. And despite the EU's current problems, especially as regards to Greece, it is generally a trading bloc involving very stable, rich countries, which are highly desirable to those living in the third world or countries which are ravaged by wars. And the reality is that the EU doesn't have a coordinated strategy for dealing with the issue, and EU countries are nowhere near finding a solution. And instead, you get either token gestures. For example, the French might say it's going to make 100 of spaces for African migrants, or on the other hand, you have harsh right-wing reactionary solutions.
Let's talk about the migrants themselves. I mean, we saw hundreds yesterday attempting to get onto lorries, any sort of vehicle they could, in the hope of coming across the channel to Britain. But how many migrants are there estimated to be at the moment in Calais, and what sort of conditions are they living in?
Well, I was in Calais not so long ago, and at the moment the conservative estimate of illegal migrants is around 3,000 living rough in the Calais area alone. And remember, there are plenty of other French channel ports, including Dunkirk and Cherbourg. And the camps are literally quite extraordinary. They're makeshift camps, but they are like expanding villages with small shops and places where you can recharge your mobile phones effectively. And I have to say that the mainly young men you meet there are affable and indeed very well mannered. But that can all change when disagreements break out over routes into Britain. And you see quite a few people smugglers milling about as well. And these people are no worse than gangsters exploiting human misery to make large amounts of money. And the going rate for a single passage from Calais to Dover is currently between £500 and £2,000 cash, although many of the migrants try to go it alone.
Nabila, thank you very much. That's Nabila Ramdani, a French journalist and commentator. Grateful for your time this morning.